one time we're all excited to go live and Instagram and Facebook goes down. So we switched, we pivoted, which has kind of been the sort of theme for the last year and a half, I think, right? So we're kind of getting used to pivoting. But we're talking about embracing vulnerability and putting ourselves out there. And so Sham, do you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Sure.
What you all about?
Oh, I'm Sharmini. I'm a pharmacist and the founder of Apothecary Skincare. We make highly active and no fluff skincare products, especially for mature skin. Ah, and you've got the deodorant. Nice. No more stinky pits.
Christine Irving, KI, Coach KI.
Speaking of mature skin, on to Hello, everybody. I'm Christine, aka Coach KI, and I am a life coach and hypnotherapist.
And wonderful at it too.
Thank you.
And I'm Michael J. I deal with yoga businesses, yoga studios, and yoga instructors, and helping them start, grow, and thrive their businesses. So it's what I'm passionate about. I love it all, and I'm loving being with my two friends here today too.
Yeah,
so, yeah, and this is a big topic, and it's funny because Christine and I came to the same topic, I think the same week. I think we were kind of going through a lot of the same stuff, but for me, it was working with studios and instructors building out their marketing plans. And so it's so interesting what comes up when you have to put yourself out there like this, whether you're going live or doing a video out there, or facing anything to do with facing your fears, and sharing your truth. And I'm finding that with the instructors, even just going through the photographs, getting the photographs taken for the website is a massive undertaking. And then there's the other thing of, getting themselves out there with videos. So what's your experience with this?
Sure.
Oh. Well,
be vulnerable. Be vulnerable.
Yeah, being vulnerable, like who isn't all the time? And I think what's interesting, especially with social media, which a lot of people say and which everybody notices, is that there's this veneer, and so you have this assumption that everybody else has conquered it, and that you're the only vulnerable idiot out there, that you're the only one who's scared of failing and of doing and saying all the wrong things, but. And I think that's one of the problems with social media is that we show all the curated stuff because Michael, you posted this amazing story yesterday promoting our live, and I was like, wow, so natural, so
she relaxing. Messaged me, yeah.
and I said, wow, that looks amazing, because I know how many takes it takes me before I even feel happy to put something out there. And that was it just made me feel so much better knowing that it wasn't your first take.
Yeah.
I'm sharing the truth, but
yeah. So that little minute piece or whatever it was 8 takes for me. And that's what it is. It's I wish I'm not comfortable. I love going live with you guys. I'm not sure if I'm ready right now to go live by myself. And KI, you've had a little battle about putting yourself out there for a while.
Yeah,
but now
look at you go.
Oh yeah, just a pro. Okay, so a couple of things, and I think it's because I've done a lot of work around vulnerability, like specifically, and not just, with regards to my business, but just in life. And, and I just think vulnerability, I started looking at it like, it's just by virtue of being alive, we are vulnerable, right? Like we're vulnerable to loss and grief and being judged and being hurt. And I just kept thinking like, damn, like why am I keep running or trying to hide from this thing, like putting myself out there, and there's no hiding because we are vulnerable. So either I'm going to just show up and conquer that, or I'm going to keep hiding, which is what I was doing, what Michael was referring to, which is like, especially in so I had a retail business, a ladies clothing business for almost 20 years. And I just, anytime a camera came around me or God forbid, our fashion show every year would just send me into like a complete meltdown all the time. And it was just this, just this really being out there. And I think for me, it's really being the fear of being judged, for sure. Like in this forum, definitely.
Yeah. Well, it's the comparison thing too, right? People are already doing it. They're doing it better than I am. How can I put myself out there on that level that they're doing? You know, it's so interesting. It's like therapy.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I'm saying. Like, that's what being able to do it was through therapy. It was through hypnotherapy. Plug. But it totally was. That's not a lie. That is the truth. And it was like, what am I hiding from? And what's the cost of hiding? And for anyone listening that is in, talking about this as far as business goes, your business is what the cost will be. And if we don't put ourselves out there and let people really see us, it's just such a public forum now that it's
we're all our own brand.
And I think one of the things you were saying, Michael, that's so important is that we're so concerned about what other people might think, but we're the ones who are concerned about that. And I think we are our worst critics, aren't we? And I know you talk about that a lot, Christine. So I think everyone's so caught up in their lives a lot of the time, they're really not caring about what we're doing.
Totally not.
Right? They're worried about themselves and how they're appearing to everybody else. So we're probably worried about something that's not even that big of an issue.
Yes. Oh, I heard like the best thing the other day that I've shared with a few people, and it was actually posted a quote from this poet, David White, but in that same podcast I was listening to, he was just telling a story about a friend of his that said, he was sharing with him how he felt like he was somebody wasn't really getting what he was trying to say. They were misinterpreting what he was saying. And he's trying to figure out how he could get this person to understand really what he meant by this. And this guy just said to him, listen, your enemies, if you try to do that, your enemies won't care. They won't change their mind. You won't be able to shift them from what they were thinking. And for your friends, it doesn't matter. They don't need that explanation.
Yeah.
And God, that was like such a great message, like think about what's happening when you put yourself out there like this. And if you flub or you make a mistake or whatever, and if somebody is judging you, I'm not saying they're your enemy. I mean, it's a little harsh, but but maybe they're not your person. And maybe that's what that is. And people that are the ones that will be like, oh my God, look at them being real. Like that's the way I'm going to choose to look at it.
I think everybody has a story, and there's an authenticity that comes with that, and so you're going to attract like-minded people. So I deal with that all the time with yoga, especially yoga teachers, not studios, that's a little different, but with the teachers, they're very I'm working with one right now, beautiful teacher, Jigna from Toronto, and she's gone through the whole taking her photographs and putting a video on her front page and all of that stuff. But her story is what's beautiful. I mean, she won't mind me sharing this, but she basically had some illness where she had vertigo for a long time. So she found yoga. She found yoga through the healing process of yoga by rehabilitating herself, learning to walk again, starting to walk backwards. But her story, now we're about to launch her website. And so her story is on the website, right? And so for her, she's going to attract people that are like, oh, I had something similar to that. I can relate to that, right? So I think there is power in everybody's story. And a lot of the time, I hear a lot of, especially women, diminish their story. I was just a mom. I was just a mom. And then I dig into it and I'm like, no, you were a super mom. Like it's, so I think, a lot of people do sort of suppress what their own story is because of comparison.
Why do they do that?
I don't know. You're the coach.
I know I ask questions.
Yeah, you do.
We're just going to be throwing a lot of that back at you.
Yeah, I'm getting the sense.
Getting all coachy on me.
But they do, because so many women, especially, you're right, Michael. I mean, that's, a great observation, is just, it's this teaching that we are, we're there to care for others. It's always going to be about the other. And if the spotlight's on ourselves, that can feel very uncomfortable for a lot of women. I know that. So it's like, and they don't want to be seen in that light, like if I share this story, will they back to that, will they misinterpret what I'm saying? Will they think I'm looking for, a lot of them have said to me, people will just think I'm looking for sympathy or that sort of thing. So there's a tricky balance with sharing, especially in this kind of world where you're sharing within your business, because I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I certainly have struggled with this, and I'm struggling with it right now while I was writing something that I want to post, and I have deleted it 5,000 times because I don't want to share this and then have people think, oh, she's just trying to get business. And that's why she's sharing the story. And I know it's bullshit. Like, I 1,000% know that we need to put ourselves, this is what I encourage others to do. And I know you guys do the same, but it's tricky. What do you think?
But don't you think that whole interpretation, like, that's you worrying about it? You do want to grow your business. And so we shouldn't be ashamed of that. And yet we often are, right? We don't want to come across as being sleazy or salesy or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if you have a business, you have to be in some way, you have to sell. Mm-hmm. And so so maybe we need to stop worrying so much about how, I mean, there are ways, of course, because we've all been to those meetings where the someone's pushing the business card in your hand and you're like, okay, whoa, but I think the the two of you for sure are not at all like that. You're givers, and and so but you want successful businesses too.
Yeah, true. But I think about what I want when I'm buying from people or going to somebody for consulting or therapy or whatever it is. I do love hearing the story. Like, that is really what connects me to them. And I mean, connection is my all-time top value. Absolutely, 1,000%. And for me, how do you connect without vulnerable? How do you connect without doing that? So if we want to connect with our people, and let's just take this outside of business for a second as well, like just into our personal lives, like we simply can't connect until we tell our story, like until we share them. Otherwise people are going to guess, I don't want them guessing.
Well, if anybody's been to a party with Kay, I think one of the first few times I met her, her eyes are right at you. So tell me everything about you. Tell me your story. I want to know everything. It's like, oh my God.
But she does it in a very lovely way.
What I love about it, she is genuinely intrigued, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, she'll dig a layer, and then she'll dig another layer, and then she'll dig another layer, right? Well, and then before you know it, your whole life is out there, right?
But she's very sneaky about it, because I've been with other friends who feel like you've been through an interrogation. I don't know if you're obviously very skilled at it. But the other ones, I come home and I'm like, oh my God, like, was I just being, am I about to be arrested or something?
Yeah. Well, and then you get what I love to refer to as the vulnerability hangover, right? Where if sometimes, like, I have had people come to me after and try to but they want to take stuff back. They're like, it's almost like what you were saying, Mike, wasn't really that big of a deal. And they just shared with me something, really significant, maybe that's happened in their life. And they'll call me like the next day, or, the worst is a week later, which means they've been stewing with this for like a week, right? And then they have what I call the vulnerability hangover. And I mean, I haven't coined that, somebody did. And it really is that feeling when you've expressed, you feel like you've put too much out there. So imagine doing that in this forum, where you have a vulnerability hangover after you post something or tell tell a story or something like that. So that's where vulnerability is just such a soft place for all of us. And it requires being gentle, with ourselves and with others, and realizing, if they're not, don't you guys, I mean, come on, Brene Brown, like, she should wear the crown of vulnerability. Like, she has spoken about it in a way that I don't think anybody ever has. But when she shares that, when she talks about Roosevelt's quote about, if you're not also, it's not the critic who counts, that saying that she has. And she says, if you're not also in the arena getting your ass kicked, like, I don't care about your feedback, or it's some form of that. And so thinking with vulnerability, like, you want to be vulnerable with other people that are being vulnerable too, right? You don't want to be the only one.
Yeah. Anybody got a life story where you put yourself out there and overcame it?
I know you do, so let's hear yours.
Well, I've got a couple, but let you go first.
Oh, I don't know if I can think of like one. I feel like we do it I feel like I've done it so many times. I don't know which one to choose. Charmin either.
There's so many.
But they're learning opportunities, right?
We have?
Yeah. Well, I think, probably for me that, one of those places, it's so funny. We talk about me at a party and having parties and stuff. Like, one of the times I feel the most vulnerable, one of the times, is when I am inviting people to a party, or even a dinner party, or sometimes even just coffee. Like, this is not like some life event, but this has just been this theme I was thinking about, knowing that we were going to be talking about this. And it is like, I don't know if there was a time when I was 5, and I need to get hypnotized for this, where no one came to my damn party, which I don't know if that's what happened, but it is this feeling of every time. So when I would do the fashion shows at the Urban Rack, which was the business I had, it was like, it was absolutely terrifying every single time. Even when the fashion shows were like bursting at the seams, we, oversold them every single year. It didn't matter. Every single time I felt like I was inside out. I just felt like I was walking around inside out the whole time. A, is anyone coming? And B, will they have a good time? Like, when they come, or when they're with me at my dinner party or my fashion show. And
a pleaser.
Yeah, like, it was always this, like, are they gonna have a good time? What will they? And I know that all goes back to judgment on that one for sure. Like, but I just would feel like I'm picturing myself walking around the store at a fashion show, and anyone who's been to them is now going to be like, what? But like, I felt inside out the whole time. So that would probably be my example of, Mm-hmm. And overcoming it now. I can do it now.
Well, okay, social media for you has been a big deal to get out there, but I want to know how you feel now, because you're going out there, you're saying what you think, it's not really edited, you're just being you now. And so I'm kind of curious how that feels to you.
Honestly, the word is freeing. Like, it feels very, like, I have been pent up for way too long. Like, what I feel like, what the hell? Like,
what were you worried about, right?
What a waste of precious time. And being able to communicate, and even the connections, that I've had through doing that so far have been so wonderful. And like that, I'm of the mindset of, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah. Well, I was asking you that.
Oh God, you were like, Michael, seriously, because he's such a nerd guy, let me tell you. Like, on top of, I think you were on social media before it was even a thing. And you would tell me, like, you need to do this, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah. I was patient. I had a lifetime fear, stage fright, like, in every sense. And I think from a kid, I remember going into being in a play. I was in a choir, which was in a group, so that felt safe. And then I was in a play, and I had I memorized my lines. I remember doing it all. But then when I got on the stage, it was like it was blank. And I just remember going blah, 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 and blurting it out, probably sweating and going off and just being horrified by the experience. And I think that really set in for me, to the point when I was the art director at Norco Bicycles, and the president of Norco Bicycles knew I had a fear of public speaking. And so they had a Toastmasters course. And so they had a sign-up sheet in the lunchroom. And so I walk in there one day and my name is written on this sign-up sheet, and I just about shit myself. And so I got a marker, scribble it out. The next day, my name's back on there again. I scribble it out. The next day, it's back on there again, until I caved and I went and took the Toastmasters course. It was the most fearful thing I'd done, but I'm super grateful for that, you know. And so, you know, just overcoming that. And I you know, and then it's kind of ironic that I'm a yoga teacher, you know, and I've been in front of hundreds of people, thousands of people over the years, but, you know, hundreds at one time in, you know, the biggest settings. And that feels comfortable. It's fearful, but it's because I feel like I know my stuff. And so it's kind of easier. And also in the studio, that was my domain when I owned Open Space Yoga. That was my space. So I was kind of in control of that experience and putting myself out there. But that's been a massive one for me, overcoming. And I think I still, you know, now I'm teaching webinars to, you know, hundreds and sometimes thousands of people, and live webinars. And I still go through that process, but I just know that doing it, taking the action, is the step. And it's the first time it's terrible. And then the second time it's a little bit easier. And then the third time it's a little bit easier. So it's just, that vulnerability is just getting over yourself and just saying, you got to do this.
Yeah. And I think what you said earlier, Sharm, like other people don't even notice it. Like anyone, I mean, when I met you, Michael, you were like, you owned it. And I mean, I think you already were on your way by the time I met you there, but you own that room every single time I saw you in there. But even at times where you're not feeling it, you know, that awesome duck analogy where you're just like under the, you know, under the water, you're just, and then above it, you're calm and cool. Like, I think people just don't even know how we're feeling half the time. You know, we need to remember that too. Like, don't know, and often like don't care. Like they're just, you know,
they're worrying about their own stuff.
They're worrying about their own stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that a lot of the stuff out there on the internet where we compare ourselves to others, a lot of what we see is not really truth. I'll give an example. I have this website, this site that it actually reviews analytics of, you know, people's social accounts and how successful they are and how much people engage on them and what have you. And if you actually do a look at some other people that maybe your competitors or in your field or something like that, and then you go on there and it's like, oh, but 400,000 people are fake or inactive profiles. Right? So it's like we can look at this and go, oh, we compare. Well, is it really?
Yeah. How did they get 10,000 followers? When I know how hard I am trying.
I made 1,000 today.
Oh, yay! That's exciting. That's a great milestone.
600 in a month after putting myself out there on Yoga Alliance, the webinars. Right?
Fantastic. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. So.
All right, Sharm, your turn.
My turn. Well, it's funny because mine is along the lines of Christine's, and I was thinking about that's probably why we're such good friends, because you were talking about, you know, having people to dinner parties and wondering if people are going to show up. So for me, it's really a lot about relationships. And now that my children are older, when they were younger, the friends were all about the moms of, you know, the kids' friends. But now that I have a bit more time, sometimes you meet someone who's quite interesting and you think, you know, I'd like to get to know this person better. I think we would be great friends. So, you know, you maybe invite them out to something and you never hear back from them. And you feel like you're 5 again in the playground and the girls don't want to play with you. But you know, if you don't take that chance, you may be refusing yourself an amazing relationship, an amazing friendship. But it is hard to do that, and it applies not just to social situations, but also in business, where you're reaching out to other brands or other people to collaborate with. And you know, there's that fear, right? That who do they think they are? Why would I want to work with them? You know, what have they got to offer me? They just want to sort of ride my coattails. So again, it's about what you really sort of looking ahead. If they don't do it, if they say no, I always say to myself, what's the worst that can happen? They can say no. Is the world going to end?
Yeah.
Never, right?
Yeah.
I asked somebody for a virtual coffee the other day and they never answered, and it's a week later.
Yeah. So that's
okay.
Yeah.
I know.
You know, they're just not your people. Like
They're not your people.
I live by that mantra. Like I like that has been the saving grace in so many of those situations, which is just like, you know what? Like maybe I'm just not for them. I'm just not their cup of tea, you know?
Yeah.
You're everybody's cup of Yorkshire tea.
Yeah. Your great saying is, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, but I'm somebody's shot of whiskey, which I'm like, oh, love that.
Oh, I love that.
I know. No one steal that.
or maybe a lovely glass of, you know, cab or
Exactly.
Chateauneuf.
But it's true. And, you know, we are, I think, put on this planet to like put our feelers out and then right? Like, come on, like Charmaine and I, you know, 30 years ago, going on a sales call together, and I was brand new pharmaceutical sales rep, and I got in the car with this very experienced ex-pharmacist.
So experienced.
I was very intimidated by her and her big brain, and it was just like, right? Michael,
Yeah.
It was.
Guys, like it's just like you put your feelers out. And you just, I think it's because I watched my Octopus's Teacher or whatever it's called last night. And it's just reminding me of, you know, but that coming together. And I think that's it. And then for some people, it's just not meant to. You're just
yeah. And when I met you, Ki, it was like, I need to know her. And I didn't know you before, but I think I probably judged you before.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, I thought
Oh,
you had a black and white photograph of yourself that was always used everywhere. It was on your website, it was in your articles, it was in the local paper, and I judged you on that photograph.
Wow.
In what kind of way, Michael?
And not judged, but I just the photograph made me think of you as being unapproachable.
Interesting.
Yeah. Now look at your photograph, flowing hair and yeah, but interesting. And then when I got to know you, I'm like, oh, she's so different to how I envisioned her, because I knew of you but didn't know you. Yeah.
Well, I think that goes into, you know, we go back to how we think we're supposed to be in certain roles, you know, in our life, and that's it. And thank God shift that's the name of our life, right? And it is all about that shift. And it was like, we're meant to keep shifting forward. You know, that's what it's not what we're maybe meant to do, but it's what I think we all desire. I know the three of us sure do, you know, shift forward. So at times you're in a place and, you know, I didn't even know I had to shift at that moment is almost what I want to say. I was just kind of stuck in that. And until you experience being vulnerable and putting yourself out there and trying something different, you then go, oh yeah, that's better. That's now I'm, you know, moving towards what feels warm, what feels good. And so many of us, I think, get stuck. And I was a bit stuck, I think, at that point of this is what a store owner looks like. And, you know, there was just a kind of something that I look back on as feeling a little bit stuck at that time. And, you know, I think if anyone's listening to this, that maybe there's something you might relate to where you feel kind of stuck. And I would say the answer to that is to be vulnerable. It is, you know, do that thing that you're scared to do. Ask that.
And it still happens. I mean, it still happens, you know, 54, you know, coming on 55, and I still feel sometimes, you feel that little kid thing sometimes. I'll share this one. I got paid by a company, a big corporate company, to create a 10-minute video for part of something. And it was a kind of a big thing as far as, signing a contract and committing to timelines and doing it in a certain way. And that at that period, I thought I was all set up for. I'm a geeky tech guy. I got everything around me. I know my stuff, what I'm teaching, talking. And I remember just having these horrible couple of days trying to do this 10-minute video that ended up, taking more than 10 minutes. It was like days, right? But I remember all the words, which I think is what I want to talk to you a little bit about, KI, is like the words that we say to ourselves. So what I was recording these and then seeing what I was saying to myself when I messed up. Right. And so every time I messed up, I was saying, oh, you idiot. Oh, you like it. And I was just saying these things and I literally beat myself up for an entire day. And I went, okay, this is not working today. The technology is not working today. I'm frustrated. I'm screwing up. It's just, I literally went onto my bike and one of my favorite people that I take a spin class with, which is very motivational and pumps you up. And I literally was like working it out in this 45-minute ride and I just burst into tears. And then I just sat with it and I'm like, all right, okay, it was a bad day. Tomorrow, you're just gonna let it go for today. You're gonna reset. You're gonna sit in this. You're gonna learn and grow from it. Reset tomorrow, and then the next day, I did the entire thing. But it was just like this moment of, all right, this is how I'm feeling. Don't beat yourself up. Be kind to yourself.
Don't you find when you're vulnerable, you're kinder? Do you find that? Is that I was thinking,
yes,
like, I think sometimes when I feel like when I am really being more, because it's also, we project what we want, so when you're being vulnerable, you just want people to be kind back, I think. So I think we are kinder. So as you were vulnerable to yourself in that moment, you were kinder to yourself, which is amazing. Yeah.
And it's okay. It's just not a good day.
Yeah, totally. Like even what happened with us today with the live, and we were all just laughing.
What are the chances?
The entire Instagram and Facebook goes down 20 minutes before we go on.
I know. Yeah.
Oh.
A week of promoting. Well, but we shifted, we pivoted.
We did.
Yeah.
Anywhere else you feel vulnerable in your lives? Any other situations or?
Well, I mean, my dance story, KI, but if you're ready for it. Shah doesn't know this one. So this was it. So I already spoke about, having a lifetime fear of public speaking. And when I was 49, I think it was 48, 49, I was teaching a class and I had the local dance teacher came to my classes and she owned the local studio. And she's in my class, and then afterwards she's like, can I have a word with you? I'm like, sure. So she said, we do a year-end recital. And she's like, I'm wondering if I gave you a year's worth of private classes, ballet classes, will you be in the year-end recital? And my initial reaction was, fuck no. Like that, it was like, absolutely no way. This is like my worst fears ever. But because of that, I said yes. And so it was the most it is the single biggest deal thing that I've overcome in my life doing that moment. And again, like KI, it's freeing. And I did a year's worth of ballet lessons with 13-year-old girls, grade 8 Royal Ballet, grade 8 Royal Ballet. Yeah, these parents were like, what's this old guy doing in his class with my...
Were they a bit worried, a bit concerned?
At first, I think a little bit concerned. But, as trust was there, I just became one of the girls. They just got used to it. They just got used to me. But I remember even, breaking that down even, I have this memory. I blog posted for a whole year on this experience. So I blogged it. It was called Ballerina. I don't know if you remember that, Ki. Ballerina.com. It's gone now, but so I blogged, and I remember the fear being in Los Angeles where my dad lived and going into the dance store to buy dance shoes for the first time. That was just, and I never bought them. I ended up coming back to Vancouver. I walked out. I just all the mothers were helping their kids. I just walked out. And then I went to a store in Vancouver on Broadway, and they helped me out, and I got also, but just even that was a massive deal for me at that time. And having to buy leggings and all the gear that came along with it. But I did a year's worth of classes, and then on weekends we did private rehearsals, and so I danced with a 13-year-old girl, but I opened the show solo. I was supposed to do these turns. I never ever got them, even on the shows that I did. I never did them, but I didn't care. And so I opened the show solo, looked a total idiot, I'm sure, but I did it. And then I closed the show with this young girl. I think she was about 16, and there was lifts and dips and turns, and it was, anyway, I completed 3 shows before I turned 50, and wow. Yeah. And I'm not meant to be a dancer. That's not going to be my career or anything like that. But that was a mammoth undertaking. It was just even physically going through that for a year as well. But mentally, it was a huge thing to overcome. Massive for me. Ki was in the audience. She was a cheerleader.
You did amazing.
Oh, you saw this before?
Yeah, she was
wow.
Yeah, she was my biggest fan.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you did that. Was there any shifts in other areas of your life that came out of that?
Oh, I don't know. What was interesting, because I was kind of in the town, a little bit of a public figure. Mm-hmm. I think it brought a lot of other people's stuffs up. It made other people. I had lots of conversations with other people about their fears.
Yeah.
It brought up a lot of stuff for people as well. So I remember a lot of conversations about that as well with other people. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's that thing when you're vulnerable, and then the people are able to feel, safe to share with you as well. Yeah.
I had my students' kids reading my blog and being
That's amazing.
Yeah. And coming up to me, I remember in the shopping days at the studio, come up to me and saying, "Oh, I read your blog," and they were inspired by that story too, right? Yeah. And then I think for parents, it's yeah, we can do these things that we think are not achievable at whatever age we want to.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. As we get older, don't we think that I should do that, I can't do that, because there's a lot of that, isn't there? Yeah.
That'll be another live.
I know. Yeah. I know. Maybe you'll see me with pink hair, because that's something I regret never having done.
Really? You should do it.
Know that? Oh God, that's so happening, Sharmini.
That's
yeah, I think my two grown-up daughters will. Yeah, they will completely. I don't know what they would do.
But then you're thinking about what they're thinking and not about what you want.
Yeah. Well, I think as we get older, the vulnerability thing, if we keep showing up vulnerably, God, that's a hard word to say. But each time we do that, it does make the next one easier. Don't you think?
It does. Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So you just got to break through that first one. And then and it keeps happening. And then, there's still, there's definitely still lots of moments.
So Sharmini, the first time you went live, how did that feel?
The first time, I was terrified, so terrified, because I didn't understand the technology. So I was sure that I would do something wrong, and I probably did. I begged everybody I knew who followed me on Instagram to please watch it, because I thought, oh, nobody's going to watch it. It would be mortifying. But now I know it's like really, who cares? Who cares? It's just putting yourself out there. I don't even remember a word of it. It was all a big blur. I was babbling. I'm sure I was babbling. Yeah, it was, and it was the lead up to it that was the worst part.
Yeah.
You know, once you're doing it, it's usually not that bad. It's your own fear, what you build up in your head when you're doing something that's out of your comfort zone. That's the worst thing.
Will you share what comes up in your head?
Oh my goodness, what comes up in my head? Well, it's the fear of failure, the fear of being laughed at, of being judged, of falling flat on my face,
Yeah.
of people, you know, knowing or feeling like people are laughing at you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad place to put yourself in. I think,
Isn't it?
And you play that game, what's the worst that could happen? So what's the worst that can happen? So if you do,
they can all laugh at me.
Oh, well, Martha Beck, who's one of my mentors in coaching, she tells the story she was terrified of public speaking, and the first time she had to stand up in front of like a ridiculous amount of people, granted, but still, she went up to the podium and passed right out. Just passed right out. I love that story so much. Literally woke up like, you know, tweet, 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 like birds around her head. And she's like, well, that happened. And, you know, where do you go from there? So it's like, so I kind of think that's the worst that can happen. And, you know,
it probably is.
She's totally fine now.
Yeah. I still remember being, and I don't know why I have this very vivid memory of being in grade 5 or grade 6. So I was 10 or 11, and everybody had to go up in front of the class. You had to do, I don't know, make something stupid. I don't know. We had to create an ancient Sumerian village or something. It was something, I had fun doing it. But I remember this poor one girl got up there, and she just stood, she went up there and she was crying on the way. And she cried and I'm thinking, I think everyone sitting there, you know, you're quite judgy at that age. They were probably mortified. The children were mortified. Why the teacher didn't step in and take this poor girl off and say, okay, come have a seat. But she basically cried through this 5-minute presentation. You couldn't hear a word she was saying. And it was just a horrifying experience, really, because you could imagine that being you. And why wouldn't the teacher have done something now that I'm saying this?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of throwing, you know, people to the wolves and saying good luck, you know, especially children. Like this is the stuff I'm seeing every day with clients, is stories just like that. You know, like at this age, it's such a formative age as well.
Does it still happen? I'm thinking this was a while ago.
God, I hope not. I hope not. But I mean, adults now who have had those experiences. So being like vulnerable, like I don't think any of us are saying, just get it, just do it. You know, there's some work that needs to be done. You need to have, you know, I think it needs to feel safe. There needs to be trust involved. And I don't think the answer is to be vulnerable with the work with everybody, but sometimes you do, especially if you are doing what we are doing, if you're entrepreneurs and you're putting yourself out there on a bigger stage, then it feels a little less safe, right? But we started smaller, right? And then shift. So I would say that, you know, just always ask yourself. Well, I always try to ask myself, what's just the next shift I can do? What's the next one? What's the next thing?
I think with social media, I think you can start small, right? You can start in a smaller way and build your way up. So for example, if you're not great at video, there's teleprompter apps, right? Where it doesn't make you look like you're reading, and it literally goes down at the speed that you're reading. There are tools out there that can make it a little bit easier. I know that I started doing recorded videos, and now I feel more comfortable just to say something and throw it out there. It may take 8 takes for me to get the words right, but it's not going to be 2 days like it was before. Right? Yeah. But I think it's just starting smaller, especially with social media, where it feels a little bit more controlled. I think is probably the best way to start.
Yeah, I think part of it too, Michael, is that with social media you have to create so much content that you can be a lot less fussy about it, if that makes sense. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be as curated. It can be a lot more off the cuff, which is why you're happier to do a story and throw it out there. So that takes a lot of the pressure off as well, doesn't it?
Don't be so precious about it.
Yeah. And I mean, I think this is the same for anybody that you follow on social media. The people that I'm interested in, the ones that are just, what did we call it the other day, font and text or something like that. But to me, I get pulled into people's lives when I can see their inner workings. So I think that's the great thing about stories, is that you get a little bit of, there's the posts that go on the regular page, which might be a little bit more salesy and curated, but there's something magic that happens on stories where people share themselves, and it draws me in. It's the behind the scenes a little bit into that person, especially if you are the brand.
Definitely, yes. But how?
I mean, you represent a product, Sharm.
I do. Yes, I do. I do. Several products.
Is that a little bit easier knowing that you're representing, that you are the face of the product, or is it more difficult? And does it give you a little bit more comfort that you're behind the product?
I mean, I don't know. I resisted it for a long time because I had someone manage my social media for a long time, and so she had to force me, not force me, but I need photos of you, I need videos of you, and I would not do it. There was absolutely no way. I'm like, I'm selling a product. Why do people need me to be there? But I think people like doing business with people they like, with people they know. Right. It gives them a sense of comfort. And then there's this big movement now towards supporting smaller brands as well. So as a brand, I think it's important, if you show yourself, then they know you're not some huge corporate entity. You are a small business just like them, trying to make a living and trying to do good and give good products to people. So it's I think it's essential if you have a business today. You have
have you found things changed because of that? Does it?
Has it changed?
Mind you, I mean, it's hard to say that, right? Because the last year has been a big change for everybody, but.
I mean, I would say, I've started doing a lot more reels, which is really putting myself out there, being silly and goofy. I definitely get more engagement from there. So more people commenting and engaging with the post. So I think once you do that, when they see you're a real person and you're not just posting pretty photos or inspired
it's relationships.
Quotes, it's a relationship. So so I think it's a very good way to build relationships.
So I try, and it's been a little difficult lately just because I've had a big mass, but I try, when people follow me, I try to send a message, hey, welcome aboard, thanks for the follow, how's your yoga world going, right? Because I saw, some of the coaches that I work with doing that, but what it does, it starts a conversation up, right? And then it becomes, well, how's your world going? What are the problems you're seeing now? And then, I give out free resources that way. And then when it does come to having a webinar or something, it's like, hey, by the way, I'm on this webinar, right? They already have a trust with me just from having that little bit of a conversation. So I think that removes a big barrier. I think when which you just said, it starts a relationship of engagement.
Yeah. What about you, Christine? Have you because you've been so much more active now on social media, what have you? What kinds of lessons or things have you learned?
Well, it's definitely exactly what's needed in my business, for sure. Like, there's no doubt about it. I think all of our businesses, for sure. But for people to be able to just kind of get a sense of what it might feel like to sit with me and to talk to me. And I think that's what I do. I mean, that's the essence of what I do. So when they can see me and just my normal life and how I am, that's how I show up for my clients as well. So, I care so much about connection. I care about this human that unfortunately can no longer be sitting there, but it is here now, on Zoom. And I hope that they're getting that sense from what I've put out there. So if I never did do that, there's no engagement at all. Like, for people out there that just had, it's different when I do get a lot of referrals. So that's wonderful. And I love referrals. And that's been the crux of my business. But now there's new people that are coming up that just said like, oh, I saw you on this thing, or like, I got this, you know,
Mm.
saw me with my dogs, and decided that that felt like a, right, like that connection thing. And so I know it's really necessary, and not only necessary for business, but I want to do it. I want to kind of emulate what it feels like to be vulnerable and to put myself out there so they feel safe to do the same with me. So I think it's been, I'm really thankful for all of these mediums we have now. Actually, I'm very grateful for it. I started coaching in 2004, and none of that. Like, you know, I was terrified back then too. I wouldn't have done it. But at the same time, there just was nothing like that. So now in this world, to have this kind of opportunity to talk to people has been, I think, just, I'm so grateful for it. So I try to just feel grateful. So rather than being scared shitless when I have to do something, I try to be grateful for the opportunity that I have now to just talk to you and not worry, you know, like what my hair looks like or some stupid thing because you're staring at yourself.
I know, I worry about my hair every time I go live.
Today, I mean, really. Yeah, I think just like, let's just, you know, moral of the story, just keep going, you know, just
it is, well, it's facing it and trying it, right? And it's I think, you know, when I work with my clients, when they're starting to put themselves out there, I think it works well that I have been through that and go through that. So I have an empathy for what they're going through, and I know that if I can get them through this stage and get them through this stage, and then there's a moment that happens where there's just so, you know, their website's up, they've got a marketing plan, you know, they're and the words on the website reflect who they are, and their video reflects who they are, and then there's just this kind of pride that they have overcome that, and you know, they've got this thing out there that represents who they are. That's the best feeling.
So is there a downside to being, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I was just going to say, is there a downside to being vulnerable? Like,
Well, I think no. I mean, I think there's lessons in it. I think there's growth that comes from it for me. You know, and like I said, you know, that moment where I was on my bike and I just broke down, that's just like, you know, when you kind of just crash like that, then it's like, okay, I can rebuild now. You know, you've kind of, sometimes you just got to go through that tough time to be better the next time.
Sorry, Shar, I might cut you off. What were you going to say?
I can't remember. I knew you were going to say that, and I was like, I do not remember. My eyes are going, I hope she doesn't know.
She's feeling, you're feeling vulnerable right there. She's scared of you.
But I love that whole thing about the lesson, Michael, because a couple of weeks ago, I feel like I had just a mental, I can't do this anymore. I am burnt out. I am not interested in this. I just don't want to do it. And then I spoke to someone who said, we just got to honor that feeling, you know, and just go with it. Like, honor that feeling, accept that you're feeling vulnerable and burnt out, and just take a break. And that's what I did for 3 days.
We lost you. Oh, there you're back.
Yes, I know my power is going down. Yeah, so it's just sort of, I guess, honoring that vulnerability when you feel that way, and then, like what you did on the bike, is just saying, okay, enough. There are times when you just,
sometimes you just got to feel it.
Yeah.
Right. And just be okay with it. And
because that's, I think, for people that really struggle with being vulnerable, and as I have, and I know you guys have as well, so like all of us, is that it's just like, we're so afraid of the feeling that comes with it. And so we don't do it because we're afraid of feeling that crappy. You know, we're afraid of the tears, afraid of having that, oh, I'm done. Like, just keep putting myself out there and, you know, I'm just done. But like you said, it's just the next step is feel it and then go again. Right. And then feel it again and just keep that movement. Yeah, because it's not like all of a sudden you're vulnerable and woo-ha, party time, never going to have any of those, you know, crappy feelings. Of course you are. But just feel it. Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, and Kay, any thoughts onto, you know, the words that we say to ourselves? Any thoughts on what, you know, what can we, to people watching this that go through that craziness and the self-talk that we do to ourselves?
Yeah, like when you're
what words can we say to ourselves that would counter that?
Yeah. Well, I think just first noticing what you're saying, just like you did, like simply noticing the words that you're saying, especially when you're putting yourself out there, because that's, or being vulnerable, right? What are the words? Notice them. The first thing I always do is ask the question, is it true? Because that's just my favorite question to ask at the beginning of absolutely everything. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Is that true?
Yeah.
So right away, realizing that the words that you're saying are total big, fat, stupid, gross lies, like right away. But also remembering that as we say these words, where they're coming from. And I mean, this goes into what I've talked about with what I do, but it really is that subconscious mind coming out, and really why those words keep coming into you, like where they're coming from. So digging into the source, digging into what is the root cause of why those words are coming up. So it's more than just saying it's a lie, I'm smart. That's one way of doing it, right? But I really think there's value to going a little deeper into what are the words you're saying to yourself? Where have they come from? Define that, and then you will know, and you will go back to that time. And I think, a big part of it is really going back, doing a lot of healing that inner child, going back to that time and really speaking to yourself as a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, whatever it might be. And realizing that you would never say that to that child, like you would never speak that way. So why do you do it now? So that's a very quickie explanation.
Yeah. And catching yourself doing it.
Catch yourself and say, look to this child, because that's really what
I love that. Yeah.
So then what would you say? What is the words you say? What kind of encouragement? And and then you speak that to yourself in the mirror every bloody day. And that has been key for me. And I love, Sharma and I came up with this on the live that we did.
Yeah.
And it really was using your products that you use every day. And every time you put on a product, you say something loving to yourself. So if you clean your face, maybe there's something also that was right in there. Definitely. Putting on your pit juice, you say, so and then you say those words that just absolutely ruin the moment, Michael.
You really have. Completely and utterly.
Anyways, no big deal, just like heal yourself.
All right, Sham, where can people find you?
They can find me at apothecary.com, on social media at apothecaryskin. And DM me if you have any questions. Ask Michael, he can hook you up with some used deodorant maybe.
Christine Irving, Coach KI.
I'm literally looking up what my Instagram is. Is it Oh, I'm terrible. I know.
It's Coach Christine Irving, isn't it?
Love you. That's it. So that's where I am.
Well, you can call me because I know where she is better than she does.
Exactly. Or my beloved Jacqueline, who will be watching this. She takes care of all that for me. But CoachKI.com is really where the action starts. So that's my website. And that's, where it's all explained.
And I'm Yoga Biz Champ and website on Instagram and Facebook and all the other places, and michaeljonline.com.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So next time we will be live. I think we already have the date. We have the date picked somewhere.
I think it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
April 22nd.
Yeah. So we'll be live again. We'll get this posted instead of being live. Thank you, Instagram and Facebook, for going down at our moment today. But
we did what we could.
Time. We did.
We pivoted, as you say.
Great being with you guys.
Yeah, great talking to both.
Yeah.
Bye.